All right, everybody, welcome. It's 90 Day Before the 90 Days, the first episode. This was crazy to me. It was some unique couples, unique characters on this episode. Starting out this new season, for those of you that don't know, 90 Day Fiance is a reality show that follows couples. One is from the US, one is from another country. So one of the partners is from the US, one of the partners is from another country. How do they navigate their cultural differences and language barriers, plus trying to get married within the 90-day visa process? It's called 90 Day Fiance. And this spinoff of the franchise is before the 90 days. So let's get into it. First, we meet Renee. I like the way her name is spelled, Rayne. She's 37, 2 kids. She loves chickens. Looks like she has a little farm of her own, living off the beaten path. She's in the US. She's a loner. She considers herself a quirky weirdo. She just lets us know right away. And she really does love those chickens. But she also makes a living off of those eggs. She has I feel like she said 100 or so chickens. And again, she has 2 kids. She's never been married, but she's been in some toxic relationships. And she's never seen real love or romance like she's getting and connecting with Chidi, who she met online. And he's from Lagos, Nigeria. They've been talking for 5 years online. He kind of sweet talks her, tells her all the things, romantic that kind of like pull at her heartstrings. But, Chidi, he's 32, but he's also blind. They show him playing soccer using a special ball and goggles. I believe he's on a team where everyone has to use those things, and I believe that they all may be visually impaired. At 17, he had an accident. Apple fell on one of his eyes, and then later he hurt his other eye on a desk because of his vision issues from the apple. It sounds wild, but this is what happened to this young man. He said it's not easy to be blind in Nigeria, especially Lagos is one of the biggest areas, congested towns, like a big city type of vibe. And he's like, it's again congested, no ramps, and you're definitely going to need assistance getting around in that area. He's a Christian, but Rayne isn't a Christian. We find that out a little bit later in the episode, but he was scared to tell her that he was blind. She was sending him all these pictures, and one of them was a little naughty, and she didn't get a real response back. So she wasn't sure of, did he like the pictures, or he was just continuing to say what he always said. So she figured out, and she questioned him, and guess he said, I'm blind. His desire is he does want to get married. And for her, the blind thing turned her on because now she didn't have to be self-conscious about herself. She feels better about the situation, and she feels like he just loves her for her. So I really think that it's kind of a beautiful thing that she accepts him being blind, but part of it is because of her own insecurities. And I think that she does need to look into that, because you shouldn't have to feel like so insecure that you don't want a person to see you. I just think that's not healthy overall. And I understand on some level, because a lot of these guys out here, yes, they want you to send all these pics and all of these things, and they want you to look a certain way, and they, I'm not saying all guys, but there's a number of them, especially on these dating apps, that want a certain look or whatever. And hey, if you don't have that look, I don't know why they don't just move on to the next person. I don't know why people always try to put people in boxes that they're not supposed to be in. So I understand where she's coming from, but I still feel like it can be an issue that she really needs to work on and kind of uncover for herself, just for her own well-being, so she can have a healthy relationship generally. Lauren, let's go next to Lauren. He's 33. He assists drag queens. He never fit in. I think he grew up in a small town. People called him gay and weird. He is a gynosexual. First time I've ever heard of this sexuality, this preference, which he says he's attracted to femininity. He prefers trans women, and their genital area is different than a man's genital area, though they still have that part. So they're not fully transitioned. But he said because they are going through the hormones and the way that they take care of their area down there, it's different than a man part, I guess. So, yeah, that was a lot to take in and a lot to learn for the first time, but we're learning this, guys, together. Esther is Lauren's friend. He dated her in the past. She's a cisgender, which is basically a woman that was born female, and they dated. It didn't work out too well because he had another preference. He said at 7 or 8 he figured this out, and I'm trying to see, how did you figure? I know you may have thought you were different at 7 or 8, but did you have a connection with a transgender person at 7 or 8? Maybe he can give more details in the future, because I don't know a lot of kids that age, and especially if you're in a small town, really, I mean, it's possible, but what was the interaction with that? I'm just a little curious for more details on that, of how I guess you can know something without knowing the name of it, but still, what was he exposed to at 7 or 8 where he knew that he was interested in transgender women? He's 33 now. To me, transgender, all of that is coming out more and more. When he was growing up, let's say maybe that was 20 plus years ago, around that age, he was talking about. I don't know if it was that prevalent, that talked about, if there was, yeah, so I'm just curious how that all played out. But he wants a trans wife. He met Faith, was Filipino, 30, called a man, called a lady boy in, I believe in Filipino terms, which means transgender, I believe. But one thing Faith doesn't know is that Lauren has 3 jobs, but he's still struggling. One of them, he's a drag assistant. I think he said he worked in retail, and there was one more job. So he's kind of couch surfing, and I think they went to some shop. I don't want to call it a sex shop, but that's just the first thing that came to my mind, where people get items and stuff when it comes to romantic situations, I'll say. He brought his friend Esther. The bill was like $60 for the stuff he wanted, because he wants to take this on his trip to meet Faith. And Esther covered the bill for him, because we know that he's basically broke. My first thought in my head is is Lauren using Esther? They are besties. I wonder if she ever got over him. Maybe part of her never got over him, but she's just used to having him around and having a male presence around. So she said she would miss him, but she's gonna help. She's hopeful for him to follow his dream of what he wants in life. But still, I feel like she may still have an attachment to him. It may be a little bit more deeper than we're just friends. And I feel like, in a way, Lauren is kind of giving me hobosexual vibes, because he, is couch surfing, and then he also reveals even more stuff. The fact that he doesn't want to be in a monogamous relationship. He really wants to be with Faith and marry her, but he still doesn't want to be monogamous. He wants to go try different things and have different experiences for the rest of his life. And he hasn't really told Faith that. I mean, why are people playing games like this? I mean, I know this is a reality show. We want some interesting things. This is, for me, in reality, I would just be upfront with that person. But a lot of people aren't really accepting of that. And so I guess that's part of the reason why he didn't say anything. If this is Faith's first boyfriend, so it's probably something that Faith does not want. But Lauren's gonna try to make it work. He bought a ring for $50. He may propose. We don't know. He's gonna be there for 3 weeks. I don't know. Lauren is kind of a mixed bag for me. It's kind of like, I don't know how to feel about this guy. I know that for me, if somebody wanted to be in a pluralistic relationship with me, that would definitely just be a turn off right there. He still needs to work on, his finances. And, of course, I have to work on my finances. Many of us do. And you can still be in love and love somebody, but it's going to be a big challenge to marry this person and, just jump right in, which it seems like that's what he's trying to do. Is he going to try to marry into a good lifestyle? Because he's like, Faith has her money together in her country. And then once I get there, at least she'll be together and then I can get myself together too. And I don't know if that's just the right way to go about it. I would probably try to get myself together, especially as the male figure in the relationship, or even, because he's gynosexual, it's a little bit different, but I mean, he appears to be the male figure in this relationship. So I don't know. I'm not really, I don't know. I'm not going to say anymore. We're going to see what happens as it unfolds. Maybe my mind will change, but Lauren's very suspect to me. I'll just say that. Now we have Tiger Lily, 41. In the beginning, she is walking in, blonde, bombshell looks. I'm sure she had some work done. No offense, but so many people have done that. She buys a watch for $26,000 right in the beginning of the episode. The beginning of us seeing her. And then she tells us this story, and I'm assuming the watch is for her new man. Her story, she got pregnant at 30, got married, the guy was rich and all of this, but he was controlling. She felt like she was in a prison. She stayed for 4 years for their kids, but she gained enough courage to divorce. And the divorce in marriage lasts about the same amount of time. It took her 4 years to get out of this marriage. It was a horrible divorce. But as it ended, she was taken care of as well as her kids. So she's good to go. But she didn't think she'd fall in love again until she meets Agnan. And Agnan is almost half her age. He's only 22. He's a model in Jordan, a very attractive young man, but young being the operative word. He changed her mind. She says this is the best relationship she's had. It's been 4 months and exclusively online. Something interesting, she said she's a handwriting expert and she can tell if you're a serial killer. She can tell what you are like in bed just by looking at your handwriting. So I'd like to delve a little bit more into that. I think that's an interesting thing, but I guess she looked at Agnan's handwriting, but some things she couldn't tell by the handwriting. Anyway, she talks to her life coach, Stephanie, and she kind of weighs in and says, be careful, because honestly, she wants to marry this guy after 4 months. When she gets there, they're going to get married right away. He says you have to do that in his culture because it's Muslim beliefs. You can't be alone with a woman unless it's his wife. And Stephanie's like, it's kind of risky. You do have a lot of money. Is he in it for that? And she said, she doesn't believe that. They haven't compared finances. She doesn't know how much money he has. She's assuming he does well for himself. So they haven't compared notes when it comes to that. And honestly, I wouldn't have told him how much money I had either walking into this, especially if you come with that much money. People are going to already try to turn you to a sugar mama, but she looks like she's turning herself into one. But her life coach, Stephanie's concerned about her choices. But she feels like this is unconditional love, her first unconditional love experience. And she's really vibing this guy. She wasn't able to have friends during her marriage because her husband was so controlling. So all of her people that does her hair, the people that does her massage, I'm not sure if these are all the right things, but I think her esthetician, these are her friends. So she has like a little bachelorette party before she goes. And a couple of the friends are going as witnesses as well. The friends slash service workers, because these are her friends. I think she needs to get some friends outside the service workers, but the life coach is on the right track, Stephanie. But a lot of the service workers are probably going to be on your side because they don't want to lose your money and you keep paying them for these services. I'd probably be her bestie and tell her everything she wanted to hear. So she needs to get some more friends outside of that. But Stephanie, the life coach, I think she really is telling her some good information and whatnot. So it's a little bit odd. Her story's a little bit odd. Her situation's odd, but it's very interesting. So I definitely want to see what's going to happen next with her and Ogman. And now we're going to go to Brian. He's 51. He was shot in a carjacking incident, and there's more to his story, but they're not going to tell us all of that in this episode. It wasn't just a freak accident. It wasn't just random. It's more to this carjacking story. But in getting carjacked, he was paralyzed and is a paraplegic because it affected his arms, though he still can operate them on some level, but it did take away some of the movement, and his legs, he cannot walk, though he does still have some movement in his legs, just not able to stand or walk. He said it took a while for him to try to readjust. He was married at 19, had a daughter. That relationship didn't go very well. He was carjacked at 27. He tells us that he was really connected to his daughter. His daughter, he really cares for her and doing his best to take care of her. When he found out he would never walk again, and it changed his life, he kind of cries as he tells us this story. He shows us his routine. He is definitely a go-getter. He does so much more than I do in a day, in a morning, or anything, and probably most of us. It takes him about 1 to 2 hours to get ready, but he's very independent. He does a lot of things on his own. He plays wheelchair rugby. And it looks like soccer to me. They play in a gym. It looks like soccer, but they run their chairs up against each other, kind of like rugby, or rugby is also like football in a way. I guess it's like soccer / football. So he does this on a regular basis. He says he's been to 10 different countries, but he fell in love with Brazil. He found dating came easier in Brazil. The Brazilian women were more receptive to him, and American women were just looking at him in a wheelchair and just judging him, and I guess saying that they didn't really want to deal with him. But the Brazilian women are more open to having a relationship with him. And now Ingrid is in his life. She's from Brazil. She's a single mom. They've been talking for 2 years. He's not really sure, though, if she can deal with his lifestyle as someone being paraplegic. He also drives. He has a special car where he has to press different buttons or whatnot. It's a little bit different, but it is made just for him and his disability. So, this guy is very independent. He appears to just really have a lot going on for himself, being in the situation he's in, and just generally, I think he said he played rugby professionally, internationally as well. So, he has a lot going for him. But later he reveals not only was he married once at 19, he's been married 4 times. He's been in multiple relationships with women from Brazil. They have not worked out. His daughter Brianna takes him to the airport to meet this lady. He was hoping she's the last. He's kind of tired of traveling, tired of doing this thing. Meeting a lot of women he met were younger than him substantially. So he's like, maybe they didn't understand. They didn't have the life experience. The young lady he's talking to now is only 2 years younger than his daughter. 2 years older than his daughter, so she's not much older, but he's saying the life experience may make her a better match for him. When it comes to the bedroom for Chitty and Renee, well, Chitty's a Christian, but he's also had a deeper awakening, and he has not yet told Renee, but he's waiting for marriage when it comes to sex. And that's going to become an issue later. And for Brian and Ingrid, because he's a paraplegic, we're not really sure. I mean, everybody's different after they've had accidents as far as their sexual abilities. But he says he does have some sexual ability with the aid of what they call the little blue pill. With all the relationships Brian has had, and I think that he's been going to relationships to try to fulfill something. I know that going through that accident probably took a whole lot away from him, and I feel like in a way he's in a search for something, and it may not be romantic love that he really needs. It may be something else. And then once he finds that or fulfills that, then maybe possibilities and doors will open when it comes for his romantic life. But it can be very challenging if you're with someone that's disabled. And I think I've talked about this before, because I was watching a YouTube channel where there were people on that were disabled, but they didn't want to be with another disabled person. I don't know, maybe it was partially because they would have to help each other physically, and maybe they weren't always capable of being a physical assistant to each other. But it all depends on the type of disability that you have as well. I thought it was interesting that they didn't want to be with someone that was also disabled. So these are the couples that we've met so far, 90 Day Before the 90 Days, and it seems like there's more couples to come. So we'll chat more about this and more topics of fake love and trends right here on CBiz Media. Email me with your thoughts at cbiztv@yahoo.com. All the best and God bless.